And welcome to another episode of South Texas Crossfire. This is Attorney Joe Flores, your host, reminding you to join us each and every week. And I want to thank Carlos Lopez, our sponsors, Vasquez Flores Home Health, and also the upcoming Education is Our Freedom is helping us with our cause. We don't want to forget about all those people that all the sponsors have helped go on to college. The people they thought that they were going to give up on, they went and got their GED and they went to college. And if I can get a law degree, so can you. Or you can go get whatever you want. If one man or one woman can do it, so can you. So thanks to our sponsors, and especially remember, education is our freedom. It's always an honor to bring on very qualified leaders, and I think that you inspire people out there that have trust in our system when you bring on judges that you take as at face value, that when you go into the courtroom, you get a fair shake. From my experience as an attorney in that court, you get your day in court. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Judge Robert, you got it, Bobby Balderas. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, Counselor. How are you doing, sir?
Okay, now this is a time in politics where the media, the social media, Facebook, Twitter, anybody who wants to throw a rock doesn't just break the window. He'll break all the windows in the barrio because it'll reach thousands of people.
Exactly.
You got to be careful what you print. So there's a big hubbub that you can't comment about, and I'm going to try to get you to comment. I know you can as a judge, but it's about your opponent getting a ticket. And it happened to be somebody close to you that gave the ticket. So let's talk about that process. What about if you got a ticket and you were doing something or something expired on your vehicle? Would you try to get it fixed, or how would you do it?
Joe, I'm not above the law. That's what I can say, Joe, is if I was a violation, I had to pay the consequences. So that's anything, you have to come up and face the consequences. Regardless if it's me or anybody. Like I said, I understand that apparently there's, regardless who it is it DPS, Sheriff's Department, constables, any type of law enforcement, they're out there doing their job. And I am not there to interpret how they do their job. I'm there so people can have a fair trial if they come up in front of my court.
Well, and the thing is that when people get tickets, they're not happy about it, right?
No.
But it's rare that if somebody gets a ticket, they report that officer to their commanding officer, to the Texas Rangers. A la máquina. Okay? I mean, that's kind of killing a mosquito with a shotgun, isn't it, Judge? I mean.
Yes. And you see, and there's possible sort of procedures you have to follow, Joe. You see, each agency investigate their own department. You see, the Sheriff's Department has their own investigators. The constable has their own investigators. The Department of Public Safety have their own investigators. So you have to follow procedures and the proper way to follow these deals. And if they would come to me, Joe, any type of law enforcement want to file a complaint on law enforcement, I cannot comment on it, Joe, because it's not my responsibility. It's the officer's supervisor's responsibility to respond to that, Joe.
Well, and the issue here also is the timing. I think a lot of people out there are saying an opponent gets a ticket and goes to the media on it. The execution and timing of this is politically motivated. And I think that many officers are angry that I've talked to. I've talked to people from DPS. I've talked to federal agents that, of course, don't want their name identified, but they said, how can we enforce justice if every time somebody's going to be reporting us to Texas Rangers, FBI, and things like that, when we give out a ticket, much less an arrest? I mean, wouldn't that have a chilling effect on the legal profession and on justice?
Exactly, Joe. It would have quite an impact on it if somebody would interfere with the proper justice and the courts. You see, everybody has their say in court. So that's why you have to follow procedures, and it's the same when officers have to do their job, and be complained on. I have no idea what situation it can be. So until you hear all the facts, political should not be involved in this situation, Joe, whatsoever. political. It's like to say politics and church cannot be together. Same thing, Joe.
The thing that I find it hard for police officers, law enforcement, you were there 30
Yes.
years plus,
Yes, sir.
is that when you pull over a cousin, you pull over a friend or a neighbor, and when you have to write that ticket, what's going through your mind? I mean,
You know, the thing is, you take an oath to do a job. And when you take that oath, you represent the public, the citizens of this county, and of this state. So it means a lot to me when I take an oath, Joe. That's why it should make a lot to any officer who are doing their job, the oath.
well, and the thing is that let me tell you, CCPD, and the sheriff's department, the constables, they're all out there, and every day when you put on your holster, your gun, your badge, you get in that car, you don't know if you're going to make it home.
Exactly, Joe.
And you have families and problems, and just like everybody else, and on top of that, you may be dodging a bullet that day.
Yes, and like I said, I did it for 28 years, Joe. And like I said, a public servant. I took this job because I wanted to help the citizens to protect and serve the community. And that's what I was doing, Joe, back then, 28 years as law enforcement. Like I said, we take an oath, we go out there, we're in public harm, and that's why officers do not have an easy job. They're the front line of any criminal activity going on. They're the ones, if something's going on, who do we call? The law enforcement.
Speaking of them, have they given you their endorsement?
Yes, I have the Nueces County Sheriff's Association endorsement, and I have the Corpus Christi Police Officers Association.
Both.
Both gave me that
And they're tough. They ask tough questions of candidates.
Exactly. And they see your background, Joe. They see and how you're going to benefit the agency, how your performance, and how you've been with the citizens of this county and of the state.
I interviewed Joey Gonzalez about this very issue. He was former CCPD in the federal system, and he was taken by surprise a little bit and said, look, we're here not a bag of tricks. We're here to talk about the issues. What are you going to do when, in other words, the question I think every voter out there needs to ask, if this young man takes you off the bench and gets up on there, I don't have any concrete idea of what he's going to do that would be different. In other words, si trabaja la máquina, ¿por qué lo vas a cambiar?
Exactamente.
Right?
Exactamente.
I mean, the machine that you've built up, and I mean that the courtroom, the staff, those people would lose jobs. The people in your area that know you, trust you, landlords, tenants. So it would really upset an apple cart, but I could understand if you were doing a lousy job, but I've never heard you were doing a lousy job.
Joe, you know, I work so close, not only with the citizens, also with the school districts, with our kids, our youth. You know, that's important, Joe. You know, education is our freedom, like Judge Joe Gonzalez says, Dr. Garcia says. Education is our freedom. It is. They're going to be our future, Joe. So we need to make sure they are productive in the community and the society. That's why we make sure they get an education.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, I've been to schools. I see their needs. I talk to the school districts. I talk to the youth. I've been out there and explained to how important it is to have an education. You know, when I was growing up, Joe, it was hard. But my parents always said education is important. You want to get somewhere, you need to have an education. So never, and I had a brother, he passed away. He was my mentor. Exactly. He was my mentor. He says, never say you don't have time to do what you want to do. You always make time to get an education. And there was no excuse whatsoever, Joe. So thank God I followed his advice. I continue going to school, and I see these kids, and I stayed on my own kids. I stayed on them and make sure, and they're productive in the city and the county. And all I tell my kids is be respectful to anybody. You know, you got to learn. You treat people with respect, they will respect you. And that's what I see.
I contacted your son,
Yes.
that they're trying to investigate and all this stuff, and he referred me to the constable. But he did say this, that he took an oath, he gave the ticket as he would give any other citizen, and he said when wreckers get tickets, if they are driving illegally and they're picking up people it's kind of ironic if other people's stickers are expired, and then you have a wrecker that tickets expired picking up expired cars, that also has legal implications. It's not operable, and it can also be in violation, subject to also, ironically, towing.
Exactly.
And I got together with the other news men here in town and women, and I contacted them and I told them, why have you not contacted the constable who's in charge of all this? And what's this hubbub about Texas Rangers? Texas Rangers have a much more important job to do, investigating unsolved murders, investigating all this. Tickets are important, but using governmental power because you're running for a race, I find that offensive.
I do, Joe. And the thing is, that is my opponent's opinion. My opinion is what I bring to the table, Joe, is my experience and what I'm going to do for the citizens of this county.
Let's talk about that. Knock it on 100,000 doors right now.
Yes, Joe.
Let's do some block walking.
We'll do some block walking. I know the needs in our precinct. And now that I addressed them personally. I've gone to the schools. I've also I make sure that they're going to hear the cases in a timely manner. You've been in my court, Joe. And I treat everybody the same, regardless who you are. You get a fair trial. Equal justice to everybody, Joe. And that's the way I see it.
I can attest to that.
And people, when they go there, Joe, they want to be heard. And I make sure they are heard. You don't have to have an attorney to represent you in this court. You don't. That's why it's called the People's Court. And I'm glad at one time they were talking about having a judge being an attorney. But thank God the state says no. We keep it as it is. Because I see it this way, Joe. You want somebody that can come over and talk to you like a one-on-one and explain to them to their level. How can I explain to them sometimes, Joe, the law they're not familiar with? You have to turn to a direction, Joe, that they can understand the law. Explain to them how the law runs. How it's explained to them, simple way. You're not going to go under section, article, so-and-so. What are you talking about? You see, if you explain to them under the section what it means, they understand, you see. And that's why I have open door policy to a certain extent, Joe, that when somebody comes over and wants to discuss something, I tell them, look, I can discuss it. The only reason is if you don't want me to hear the case, I won't talk about it. He says, I can't talk to you. But if you don't want me to hear the case, we can discuss it. But I'm not going to hear your case. I'll recluse myself.
Right.
I would not hear the case. So that's one of the things I understand. But I tell people, how would you like me hearing their case without you present? He says, I know what you mean, Judge. That's why I don't listen to the case until we come to court. If you want me to hear it, I'm not going to discuss this case whatsoever until we come to trial. And that's the person I am, Joe. They have fair and equal justice. When we come up, Joe, I'm not familiar with the case. I read the case, and then we start from scratch. Because I don't want to make a decision before I go into the courtroom. I want to be open-minded and give both parties the opportunity to explain and present their case properly.
Well, and we've got about 30 seconds left, but I really want people out there who want to get involved in politics. A lot of people say, politics, what difference does it make what judge is up there? It makes the difference, all the difference in the world. And let me tell you, if you don't like politics, the minute you turn on the light at the house, you brush your teeth in the morning, you go look at the meter, how much electricity are we wasting? You go pump gas, you go to City Hall, you come home, and there's food on the table, and the stove is cooking. You're involved in politics because all of that was decisions made by your leaders you put in office.
That is correct, Joe. That is correct.
What's the magic number to call if they want to get involved in your campaign?
If they want to contact, it's area code 361-442-4535. Then contact Ana Flores, and she'll get a hold of me anytime. If she doesn't answer, they have an answer machine. You can call her and say, Joe, I welcome anybody, and they want to just talk to me, Joe, call me. And she'll get a hold of me, and we'll discuss anything they want to discuss about the campaign. I'm there. I'm not there to hide anything, Joe. I'm there. I want to continue being their judge. It's a people's court. It's their court. It's not my court. I never said it was my court. It's a people's court.
Magic number is 442-4535, and become Judge Bobby Balderas' friend on Facebook. He's right there. Just put in Judge Bobby Balderas, Robert Balderas, and his $1 Million Smile will appear on there.
Exactly.
And you can become his friend, and you can find about his campaign, 442-4535. Write that number down, and make sure, everybody out there, time is running out. Get ready to register to vote. I want everybody to have their ID when they go vote. If not, they give you some ballot, and who knows, it will be counted. So in other words, be ready, get out there and vote. If you're a senior and you need to have people maybe take you to the polls, there's nothing wrong or bad about that. 442-4535 on that. 442-4535. And remember, your Justice of the Peace, Robert Bobby Balderas, seeking your vote yet again to keep that same machine going, keep the lights on, and give you equal justice. Thank you. Appreciate it, Judge.
Thank you, Councilor. Appreciate it.
We'll be back after these messages.